Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dev Dispatch Top 5 of the Week. Today, like every Tuesday, I am excited to share with you 5 publications to get you reading this week. If you have not met that resolution to read more, it is never too late to start. Browse our catalogue of publications on our website, or if you are interested in climate change and the AFCFTA, consider joining our reading club. Now to the business of the day. My first recommendation is a short policy brief by Abdel Salam Jaudi, which gives an overview of the AFCFTA from a legal standpoint, beginning with a contextual background of how the agreement came to fruition. It is followed by an explanation of the AFCFTA's objectives and institutional framework, and concludes with a reflection of what the future potentially looks like for the AFCFTA. The concluding section gives a balanced perspective of some of the benefits to the continent if the AFCFTA succeeds, such as African states moving away from the European regional integration paradigm, while also raising concern over security risks stemming from poor governance and cross-border instability. Up next is the 2022 UNAIDS Global AIDS Update that exposes threats to the global AIDS response owing to the COVID-19 pandemic that compromise progress made in prior years. It lists key responses to get the AIDS response back on track and end AIDS by 2030, including countries elevating the political and financial prioritization of HIV prevention and shifting from fragmented projects to large-scale implementation. 2. Supporting resource community-led responses. 3. Ensuring sufficient and sustainable financing. And 4. Addressing inequalities in HIV prevention, testing, and treatment access and outcomes. My third recommendation is the African Handbook of Climate Change Adaptation, which dissects some of the main issues and challenges related to climate change in Africa and looks at evidence that shows how climate change adaptation is being successfully implemented in African countries. It includes insights from international and regional experts working in the field of climate change. Part 1 of the book explores climate change, agriculture, and food security. Part 2 looks at climate change technologies and resource management, and Part 3 examines interdisciplinary aspects of climate change. It is a long read with 2,820 pages, but a great resource for anyone researching on climate change and climate change mitigation and adaptation in Africa. Number 4 is a regional mapping of trafficking and vulnerable migrants routes in the East and Horn of Africa. Victims of human trafficking are subjected to several human rights violations, including sexual and labor exploitation. This report serves as a much-needed resource for CSOs and organizations working on the front lines of assisting victims of human trafficking by identifying the broad scope and scale of migration activities from the East and Horn of Africa, mapping the routes and bringing to the fore some of the violations faced by migrants along the way. It indicates a general lack of safe routes, the existence of internal trafficking, and exploitation of children. Finally, at number 5 is the G7 Partnership for Women's Digital Financial Inclusion in Africa's 2022 Accountability Report. This report addresses the requests from the French G7 presidency to support greater transparency and accountability across G7 initiatives. This year's report focuses on the theme of trust and offers reflections on the progress of the collaborative in its second full year of implementation and provides recommendations for improving its collective impact. Those are my recommendations for this week. Enjoy and see you next week. Goodbye.